This bottle says SPF 20 on the front, but the front of the bottle doesn't tell you how much sun protection is actually in here. The front is marketing, the truth is on the back. This is the INCI list, and once you know how to read it, you will never look at an SPF claim the same way again. Hi, I'm Dr. Linda Brand, and today we're going to look at exactly what's inside these products and how to spot the difference between meaningful sun protection and a token or SPF claim. INCI stands for International Nomenclature of Cosmetic Ingredients. It's the standardized naming system used on every cosmetic and personal care product sold in the US, the EU, and most of the world. Every ingredient has one specific INCI name. The same ingredient, every brand, every country, one name. But here's a critical clue. Ingredients are listed in descending order of concentration. The ingredient present in the highest amount goes first. The one present in the smallest amount goes last. This means where a UV filter appears in the list, it's not just a name. It's a clue about how much of it is actually in the product. And for SPF products, that clue tells you a lot. Every UV filter in makeup belongs to one of two families: mineral filters or chemical filters. Mineral filters, also called inorganic or physical filters, sit on the skin's surface. They physically deflect and scatter UV radiation. There are only two of them: zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. That's it. If you see either of these names in the INCI list, you're looking at a mineral UV filter. Chemical filters, also called organic filters, work differently. They absorb UV radiation and convert it into heat, which is then released from the skin. There are a lot more of them. They have longer, more complicated INCI names, and that's exactly why most people don't recognize them when they see them on a label. Both families can be effective. Both have trade-offs, and we'll go much deeper into that in episode 4, when we look at safety. So for now, let's focus on the names. Here are the UV filter names you'll encounter in makeup sold in the United States. I want you to screenshot this or save this video because these names are not obvious, and that matters. So let's walk through them. The mineral filters are easy. Zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Both appear in INCI lists exactly as you'd expect, spelled out in plain English. If you see either one, you know you're looking at a mineral UV filter. The chemical filters are where it gets less obvious. Avobenzone, one of the most commonly used UVA filters in the US, appears in INCI lists as butyl methoxydibenzylmethane. Nobody reads that and thinks sunscreen. Octinoxate, a very common UVB filter, appears as ethylhexyl methoxycinnamate. Again, not very obvious. Octocrylene and homosalate use their common names in INCI, so those are a little easier to spot. Octisalate appears as ethylhexyl salicylate. Oxybenzone, one of the most controversial filters we'll discuss in episode 4, appears as benzophenone 3. The point is this: if you don't know these names, you cannot evaluate the SPF in a product. The front label is not enough. You need to look at the back, and you need to know what you're looking at. Now that you know the names, let's talk about where they appear. Because position matters as much as presence. Remember, the INCI list goes from highest concentration to lowest. Water is almost always first, then come emollients, emulsifiers, thickeners, then actives, then preservatives and fragrance, usually near the end. In a well-formulated SPF product, a real sunscreen, the UV filters appear relatively high in the list, because they're present at meaningful concentrations. You'd expect to see them in the first half of the ingredients list. Now look at the average SPF foundation. In many SPF foundations, the UV filters appear in the bottom third of the INCI list, sometimes near the very end, after the thickeners, after the preservatives, sometimes even after the fragrance. That tells you something important. When an ingredient appears that low in the list, it is present at a very small concentration. It may be there in amounts that are cosmetically and legally sufficient to make an SPF claim, but not at concentrations that deliver meaningful protection. And this is what I call a token SPF. The ingredient is there, the claim is legal, but the amount is doing very little for your skin. Let's talk about what concentration actually means in practice. Chemical UV filters have maximum concentrations allowed by the FDA. Homosalate, for example, is allowed up to 15%, but here's the thing, even at its maximum concentration, homosalate alone only delivers around SPF 4. It's a weak filter that has to be combined with others to do anything useful. Octinoxate is allowed up to 7.5% in the US, avobenzone up to 3%, and oxybenzone up to 6%. For mineral filters, zinc oxide can be used up to 25%, and titanium dioxide has no specific maximum in cosmetics, though it's typically used at lower concentrations because of the white cast it creates. To achieve SPF 30 from mineral filters alone, you're looking at needing roughly 10 to 15% zinc oxide to reach SPF 50, even more. Now think about your average SPF 30 foundation. It has a sheer, lightweight texture, it blends to near invisibility, it doesn't leave a white cast. If the UV filters are mineral, the texture is physically incompatible with the concentration needed for real SPF 30 protection. Something doesn't add up, and usually it doesn't. The honest answer is that most SPF foundations either contain UV filters at suboptimal concentration, or they rely heavily on chemical filters that have their own limitation, which we'll cover in episode 4. We've been talking about what's inside the product, but here's something else on the label you've probably seen and probably ignored. What do I know? I did at first. PA++++. You see this mostly on Asian beauty products, Japanese and Korean sunscreens especially. But it's showing up on more Western products too. And it tells you something that the SPF number completely ignores. PA stands for protection grade of UVA. It has developed in Japan specifically to measure UVA protection, because SPF on its own only measures UVB, the rays that burn you. SPF tells you nothing about UVA, nothing. And for mature skin, that distinction matters enormously. UVA rays are the ones that penetrate the deepest into the skin. They're present year-round at consistent levels, even on cloudy days, even through glass. They don't cause sunburn. What they do is drive photoaging. The collagen breakdown, the pigmentation, the loss of firmness, the changes most of us are trying to prevent. So what do the plus signs mean? The system is based on the lab measurements called the PPD test, persistent pigment darkening. It measures how much UVA radiation reaches the skin before it begins to respond. More plus signs means more UVA is blocked before that happens. PA++++ is the highest rating available. It was added to the system in 2013 because PA+++ was no longer sufficient to represent the best performing products on the market. One important caveat: the FDA doesn't officially recognize the PA system. In the US, UVA protection is labeled as broad spectrum, which just means some UVA coverage is present. It says nothing about how much. Broad spectrum SPF 30 and broad spectrum SPF 50 with PA 4+ are very different levels of protection. Broad spectrum alone is a low bar. If you can find a product with both a high SPF and PA 4+, that's the most informative combination available today. So what do you do with all of this information? Here's a simple framework. Step 1. Find the UV filters. Use the table we went through earlier. Look for zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, butyl methoxydibenzyl methane, ethyl hexyl methoxycinnamate, or any of the others. If you don't see a single one of them, the product has no UV protection regardless of what the front says. Step 2. Check where they appear. If the UV filters are in the top half of the ingredients list, that's a better sign. The product likely contains them at a meaningful level. If they're buried at the bottom, below preservatives and fragrance, you're looking at token SPF. Step 3. Check for broad spectrum coverage. A product that only contains titanium dioxide, which offers limited UVA protection, It's not giving you full UV protection, even if the SPF number looks good. You want to see either zinc oxide or a combination of UVA and UVB chemical filters to get genuine broad spectrum protection. And step 4. Remember what we covered in episode 1. Even a well-formulated SPF foundation is not a replacement for standalone sunscreen. This is about knowing what you have, not about being satisfied with it as your only protection. The INCI list doesn't lie, the front of the bottle might oversell, the marketing might be confusing, but the ingredient list is regulated, standardized and honest, if you know how to read it. And now you know what to look for on both sides of the bottle. In episode 3, we're going to take this further with a question that surprises almost everyone. Save this video for the INCI name table. Send it to someone who buys foundation based on the SPF number on the front. Subscribe if you're not already, and I'll see you in episode 3. Bye, see you then.